gonna be fun. You don't want to miss out.
What questions are on your mind? Does partisanship permeate every aspect of Ghanaian life? Can Africans truly run their own affairs without a need for foreign aid? Do you have absolute confidence in the ability of security agencies to come to your aid when you need it? Do the emergency lines in this country even work? For answers to these and more, join me, Noang Falong, on MX24.
Unique, contemporary, engaging. Introducing the ultimate talk show that captures, scrutinizes,
Hello, good evening and welcome to Spotlight. My name is Noang Falong and you're watching MX24 television. I don't know if you've tried to re-register your SIM card in the last few weeks as per the directive from the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. Now, if you've been following the news, Ghana's SIM re-registration exercise started in October of 2021. This directive was issued by the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization. The goal is to streamline data and tie the SIM cards to the Ghana card. So apart from registering on a short code, you have to go to an authorized point, which is usually the office of one of the telecommunications companies, to register your biometric data. So they collect your biometric data and then your registration is complete after that. However, several problems have been arising from this exercise. There have been a lot of complaints from people, and this usually borders around wasting long productive hours, the cumbersome nature of physically moving from wherever you are authorized to wherever you are to the authorized points where you can register your SIM card and collect your data. Now, some of the issues and questions that have been asked are whether the registration centers can handle these crowds that they've been experiencing, because there have been a lot of people moving to the centers to register. Some of them have had to wait unacceptably long hours. Now, can the process also be less cumbersome, less difficult, more efficient? These are questions we're going to be speaking to this evening here on Spotlight. Of course, we are calling on a few good minds. Ken Ashigbehi, CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. We're also speaking to Manasseh Azuri-Awuni. He's a journalist and a member of the undersigned Concerned Mobile Network Subscribers. He is also embarking on a particular campaign that we're going to be telling you more about in the program, and he'll be speaking to it. We're also speaking to Abdul Ganiyu. He's head of corporate affairs at the National Identification Authority. But before we get into that, let's take a quick report from Ashaman, which looks at the ongoing registration exercise.
This government announcement that all SIM cards should be re-registered by 31st March 2022, many have been trooping to telco offices to link their Ghana cards to their SIMs. This has led to congestions at many such centers amid the COVID-19 pandemic. In lieu of this, the National Communications Authority, NCA, extended the deadline to curb the situation. However, A visit to a number of registration centers in the Ashaiman municipality revealed long queues still persist.
I got here this morning like around 4:30. I'm a nursing mother. I left the child in the house thinking that when I come I'll be able to do the thing and go. But when I got here, they said we have to wait till 8 o'clock. We've been waiting here. Now it's getting to 1 o'clock and we are still here.
I was here before 6 o'clock in the morning, and till now I have not been served. According to them, the network is not working.
Affected me, say, and never told my baby, me babedi, me new kuno, and I may be na me mamma, me banubes, and I'm better from my just this is a me coffee, I don't a minute, my baby.
How about those who are yet to acquire a Ghana card? Well, it will be recalled that your favorite network, MX24 TV, brought you the story of human congestion and the low pace of registration process here at the Ashaiman Municipal Office of the National Identification Authority in October 2021. Interacting with residents 3 months on, they say the situation has not improved.
Me frizano na maba shama ha esi esano bia ogro so said the be ko forest nyina ye benya na kaka kra bi on time na so e be ni dey.
Imagine over 100 plus thousands who resides in Ashaiman as population, and this GRA is the only center for NIE.
I had a chance to go and fill the form and take the picture, but after taking it, how to get a card is another issue altogether.
If you are here and you are not around, the man will just cancel your name. Once you are, instead of him to take the name that if you come back, he will just say, oh, you are here, then let me add you to those who are already in his hand. He will just cancel your name. You will go back and restart again. What is the meaning of that?
When contacted, the Ashaiman Municipal Registration Officer for NIA, Gladstone Agbuada, explained the reason behind the never-ending congestions here.
If we have over 300 people coming, particularly 400 people coming just one day, you can imagine, and you can only deal with 40, 50, 60. So the rest you have to ask them to come the next day or the next 2 days. Some of them, you search for this card right now. You search for this card, you go down, you mention the name, the person is gone.
Gladstone Agbuada further cautioned residents who use money as a form of inducement to fast-track the process at the center to stop.
Initially, when we started, we realized that they wrote the first name. We came to meet. And that first name...
Now, that was a cross-section of Ghanaians talking about the challenges that they have faced in trying to have their biometrics collected. Very pertinent to this discussion is a joint communique that was released on the 11th of January, and I'll just go through it quickly for the salient points. It was released by the NCA and the telecom companies, and it says the Board of Directors of the National Communications Authority, NCA, yesterday met, and yesterday here refers to the 10th of January. Yesterday met with the Chief Executive Officers of the mobile network operators and the developers of the SIM card registration application, and this followed recent reports of subscriber challenges encountered with the ongoing SIM card registration exercise, which began on October 1, 2021. The meeting was to review and outline solutions for the issues identified with the exercise. The meeting reviewed all issues concerning the SIM registration process with specific focus on improving subscriber experience. Now, at the end of the meeting, all MNOs and app designers and the NCA agreed on the following. These are the points to take note of. That all stakeholders, that is the NCA, all MNOs and app designers, are committed to collaborating to ensure the success of the exercise. So we know that, one, there's a commitment to ensuring that the exercise is successful. Now, all MNOs will work to improve customer experience at various registration centers to reduce and eliminate long queues at stage 2 of registration. How successful this agreement has been is not yet fully measured, but there are still a lot of queues at the registration centers. Now, all MNOs will take urgent steps to increase number of agents or staff undertaking the biometric capture at stage 2 of the exercise. That is, open up additional registration points and increase the number of devices for biometric capture. Hopefully that eases some of the crowds. Also, all MNOs will publish the locations for the SIM registration for subscribers to easily locate centers close to them. I have seen some information pertaining to this particular point from MTN specifically. Now, there will be continuous update of the SIM card registration application to ensure that it is robust and efficient at all times. Also, that there will be deeper collaboration to ensure that all associated challenges with the SIM card registration exercise are addressed promptly. Prompt here is debatable. But let me go to the CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications and just ask him a few questions since he's with us. Hello, Mr. Ashikwe, good evening.
Good evening.
Let me quickly find out from you. So far, these challenges that we are seeing being reported, people are encountering at these registration centers, could they have been avoided, anticipated, and planned for to begin with?
Well, thank you very much. Could they? Well, to an extent, yes.
Because we have an idea of the subscribers on these networks, right? So we know that definitely if there's a rush, there will be a lot of crowd, there will be a bit of chaos. So could it have been anticipated?
Well, you see, the thing about it is that you realize that this started, on the 1st of October, but the crowd started pouring in December into January, So in terms of how we all came to the place, the pace was slower and it picked up. But you need to look at what has brought us here. What has happened is that in the past, in terms of SIM registration, you did it in a lot of places. But with the coming into force of this new policy, which is a very good policy to say that we should all use the Ghana card, which is a more robust system that has a database to validate. When you say you are Kenneth Ashibe, you are actually Kenneth Ashibe. The process of the second phase requires that we use a particular app. That particular app works with smartphones that are up to a particular specification. And so what it then meant was that a lot of the older channels that we used to use, where people could use even feature phones and simpler phones to be able to do this registration, were cut off. So at some point, virtually almost about 90% of your existing channels you could not use. Then also was the issue of the app. And so you realize that in the press release that was issued by the NCA, it talked about meeting also the app developers, because there were some challenges with the app, and so several updates had been made to it, and that is beginning to show some improvement. Now you see that you're able to work offline, and then you're able to sync it successfully. That is beginning to work, but the pace at which, the speed at which the app was working earlier on was slow. So that was resulting in the time that customers were spending at the locations, and then also for the fact that now, a lot of the people who are using smart, the basic phones you could not use. So that is what has accounted for the challenges that we have faced. And,
Engineer,
as the operators had said, we're beginning to increase the locations that you can do the SIM registration,
right?
Including even the NCA offering some of its regional offices to be used. And not only that, we're beginning to also send the registration to customers. For example, I know that over the weekend, St. Teresa's Parish in Kaneshi, Holy Spirit's Cathedral in Adabraka, Christ the King, Laboni School. There were places in various communities that registration has been going on in these communities, all to be able to bring the service closer to people. And as I said, the app is also improving. There's still a lot more that we need to do on the side of the app. And I'm sure if all of that is done, we should be able to see more improvement in terms of the customer experience.
Engineer, you say the phase 2 involves using phones with some specifications. Some people have suggested that people who have such phones be given access so they can register on their own. Is this a possibility?
Yes. So where, as an engineer, definitely, I think that's where we ought to get to. We need to get to a point where we can have this app as a user app, so that instead of it now being given to agents, we can get to a point where those who are tech savvy, who would be able to download the app themselves. And it would also require one additional thing, the NIA and the NCA collaborating, so that instead of the current situation where we're collecting the biometrics on the second phase and then storing them at NITA to be synced later, we need to get that collaboration between the NIA and then the NCA, so that, if you brought a consumer app with all the security features and all of that, I can sit in the comfort of my home, and then once I do the star 404, I can then go on to the next phase and then capture my biometrics using a device with the right specification and be able to hit the NIA database. And then when that is done, you'll be able to do a one-on-one match. If it matches my data that I provide, matches with what the NIA has stored, which they collected when I did my biometric registration, then I can complete the process. If we're able to do that, it will reduce the numbers that would go to the various MNOs. It would also enable me, for example, my great-grand-auntie who is not strong enough to be able to walk to the registration centers, I would be able to do it for that person. It would also enable Ghanaians who might have traveled out of their jurisdiction, have their Ghana card, have their their SIM cards, would be able to do all of that themselves. So I'm sure in terms of the self-service, it's something that the NCA and the technical partners are not oblivious on, and we will be working towards them. Some of the other things that we need to also do with the app to make it a lot more faster is to be able to allow, once the biometrics are collected, so if the policy allows you to be able to have like 10 SIM cards. So if I go and I have, all the 10 SIM cards and I want to register, I have That's 3 on NTN, I have other ones. Once you collect the app, my biometric ones, you should be able to then map all of these numbers to them. Those are the various upgrades that we hope that we will get to, and all of that would improve the user experience.
Engineer, there's this important question I need you to explain. People have privacy concerns, which is legitimate. There are also questions about the issues with the software and why a third party, private party, is allowed that level of access to biometric data of Ghanaians on such a large scale. Are these concerns valid?
So what is happening is that the NCA has a technical partner who's providing the common platform called Kelni GPG. So they are a partner working with the NCA already. Okay. And so it is this technical partner that is providing the app. But the thing about it is that the app does not store the biometric data. The biometric data is stored onto the NITA service, which is also a state entity, and their data centers are high category data centers. And so in terms of the privacy concerns, so far as that is concerned, it is an app that has been developed for the NCA that is collecting data that is being stored at the NITA. But as I said, and also you should bear in mind that the data control agency, that data protection agency is an agency of the NCA, of the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, and they have definitely looked at this. But I'm sure the preferred one would have been that instead of collecting even for the second phase, we rather would have just validated our biometrics against the data that is already collected and that is stored at the NIA. And I believe that's where we ought to get to, where we can have the NIA and NTA working together. And then, so once you go on the second phase, we don't need to collect again and store, but we collect and then you just provide your biometrics, and then there's a one-on-one match done with what is at the NIA.
Is there any particular law in Ghana that requires Ghanaian mobile network subscribers to re-register their SIM cards? For one. Also, there are concerns that any attempt to impose on subscribers or block their lines would amount to an infringement of their property rights. Do telcos really have the right to, say, on 31st March or maybe the next day after that, just block everyone who has not registered their SIM card or collected their bio data?
The telcos are not the ones who issue out the policies. The policies emanate from the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, and then the NCA is the regulatory body that is exercising this. I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but I know that there's a the SIM card law that allowed various other SIM cards, various IDs to be used in registering SIMs. Then there is also, when the NIA law came into effect, it then said the NIA card should be the only card that should be used in registering SIM cards. And so I'm pretty sure it is those two laws that are being used. And you also need to bear in mind that there's a very important reason why, SIM re-registration is being done. We all know the challenges that have been fraught with our IDs, to the extent that there is a Supreme Court ruling that says that the Ghana health insurance card is not fit to be used to do voter registration. So on the back of that, you could not use this ID. But this particular ID is also one of the IDs that has been used extensively to register SIM cards. Also, you have had situations in the past where the DVLA had complained about people faking their IDs and all of that. So by the old law, if you walk to any telco provider and you came with any of the IDs, all they could do is to look at it and see whether it looked at you, and then they'll register you. But that has definitely resulted in, some challenges with the database that we have. Now that you have a very secured and robust database, the NIA, where if we went on to any of these telco providers and you provided your ID, if they wanted to verify that you were the one, they could use your biometrics to actually, you don't even need to take the card. Once they had a portal, you could put your finger on it and they could find it out. It is that imperative that would ensure that we will have a robust SIM registry that would ensure that your mobile money, you would minimize the fraud as much as possible. You would eliminate as much as possible the issues of SIM box fraud and all of that. Those are the imperatives that make it important for you to do a SIM registration. But the point is that if with all this imperative, if you want to do a SIM registration, you ought to do it in such a way that the user experience for the customer would not be cumbersome, especially in this day and age where you have the Omicron around all of us. So we all need to work to find ways in which we can improve that. The telcos are not the ones saying that at a particular date there should be a cutoff, but I'm pretty sure, based on the processes that we're running, there's feedback that is always being collected, meetings, technical meetings between the telcos and the NTA. There are times when the minister himself gets involved in some of that and feedback is provided. I'm sure that the March deadline, based on all the the evidence, the data that has been collected, what has been done so far, we know the NIA is also pushing to get cards out. But I'm not too sure the minister is interested in disenfranchising any Ghanaian. So I'm sure when the time comes, and based on the data that is there, the decisions will be taken. But I'm sure at this particular point, before we get to March, we still have almost 2 months, is to make the processes as fluid, as user-friendly as possible, so that a lot more people would be able to get their SIM cards registered.
Thank you, Engineer. Just hold on for me. I want to go to NIA's Abdul Ganiyu. He's Head of Corporate Affairs at NIA. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.
Yes.
So first question I want to ask you is, does the NIA have robust, reliable data on Ghanaians?
Yes, surely. NIA has a robust and reliable data.
Why is the NIA not sharing this with the telcos and they have to do it all over again?
So I think that the telcos taking your biometrics again, as we understand it, is just to be able to verify persons who went through that online process. So that if your Ghana card somewhere and someone just picks it up, the person can call you, go through the process, and then use it for any purpose that could be fraud, for instance. But at the end of the day, if they were to trace the person, they will be tracing that to you. So that next layer of verification is just to ensure that you are the same person who went through that process. So that's how we understand it. Or else, our biometric data is robust. There are 3 levels of biometrics that NIA will capture about any and every individual registering for the Ghana card. One is all the 10 fingerprints. The other is the iris, and then the facial recognition component. So this is about the most comprehensive biometrics that you can find anywhere in the world, and that is the best practice that the National Identification Authority is following. And talking about how robust the whole system is, we have a clear free data center in place as we speak. We have a data recovery center also in Kumasi. So what that means is that if there was to be any threat on the main data center, for instance, you have another source that will continue to keep the data and for all the purposes that it is supposed to be put to. So we have a very accurate, credible, and reliable system, but long as the best practice all over the world can provide. And that is why all these other state institutions are now going to be piggybacking on the national identification system created by the National Identification Authority in order to establish the identity needs of each and every Ghanaian going forward.
Mr. Ganiyu, how many Ghanaians have been registered so far by the NIA?
We have registered close to 16 million as we speak.
Did you say 16 or 15, please?
Can you come again on that question?
Sorry, you need to speak up a little more. Did you say 15 or 16?
Yes, so I'm saying that we are close to 16 million now.
15 or 16?
16, please.
16 million, okay.
And the point is that day in, day out, new registration is taking place. So in real time, you really have to look at the data every day to be able to report on the specific numbers. But that has to do with persons who are over 15 years and above. That is the adult population. And for 16 million, that means we're talking about 85% of that population, looking at the recent population and housing census. We will come up with another phase of registration that will capture all children from age 0 to 14. But now, it is the adult population that is being considered in this particular phase. So 16 million people, over 14 million cards printed and issued, and some cards have also been printed, but people are yet to go to the district.
So how many of these 16 million? How many of these 16 million have physical cards to show that they have registered? Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
Over 14 million, as we speak, have the Ghana card in their hands. So that's 14 million people as we speak. But the fact is, many of these cards have actually been printed, except that people who registered must go to the regional and district offices for these cards to be issued to them. So we have over 1 million cards that are still a backlog. They are printed, kept at the regional and district offices, and all that people have to do to go for these cards to be issued to them. We understand that the process has been quite slow since we started issuing the cards, but that is also because we are very long queues of people attending to the regional and the district offices. In the last couple of weeks, we have increased our capacity, moved from 4 people who were working at the district level to 8. So many more cards are now being issued on a daily basis. And we believe that by end of February, for instance, all cards that have been in backlog should have been issued.
What causes the delay? Because we have people reporting that as far back as July of last year, they registered and have still not gotten their cards.
Yes, a couple of issues. First will be the data inconsistency issues for quite a lot of people. We already have data of some persons who registered 10 years, 12 years ago. Those people now come and their personal records have changed, but they do not come to give us the relevant documents based on which we can rely on legally or lawfully to now be able to register them. So take, for instance, a name change. Once your name has changed, you should have done an affidavit, you should have gazetted it. And when you come to the NIA, it's these documents that will be given to our officials, then the registration will take place. But people have changed names, and they come and there are those inconsistent issues that have to be adjudicated upon. And that applies to change of age as well. So people change their date of birth and whatnot without the necessary supporting documents. When they also come, and the data that they now give us becomes inconsistent with the previous data, it holds up the data, and adjudication must take place. So it took a while for some of these adjudicated issues to be dealt with before those cards were printed. And as we go on with the public education, people are beginning to now understand why the printing of their cards and issuance have delayed over the period. And we believe that with that kind of understanding, the system is becoming much more smoother than it was 2-3 years ago when we started the registration.
I think some people's concerns are also about the ability of the NIA to keep up with issuing the cards, because if people need the card to be able to register their SIM card and have their biometrics taken, and there's a slowness in the process, how quickly can you meet this demand such that these people are able to register?
Yes, so as I indicated, it's about increasing our human capacity. And we realized that, of course, with the announcement for Ghanaians to re-register their SIM cards, there were going to be very long queues at the regional and district offices. Ahead of March, way ahead of March, what we have done is to now increase the human capacity. So if you send your reporters to the regional and district offices now, if they compare the situation now to 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, they'll realize that most of those long queues have actually eased. So as far as that is concerned, it is really not an NIA problem. I think the concern has been when people have gone through the merger and they have to go to offices of the telecommunication service providers to take their biometric. That is where the long queues are now being recorded. But for the regional and the district offices of the NIA, we have found a solution to that by increasing our human capacity. We are registering many more people than it was a couple of weeks ago. We are issuing more cards than we did a couple of weeks ago. And I think that we have eased the pressure to a very large extent.
One of your centers had its machine stolen and had to suspend registration over that machine theft. How is it going at that center?
Yes, the case has been referred to the CID, and I know that they are carrying on the investigation. They have some suspects already. So when there is finality to that, we will issue a statement to that effect.
That's the Peshi Zonal Center, right?
I think that's at Dadiko point. Right. So one of the CID is handling that. and some suspects have been nabbed already. So over the next couple of days, we'll get to the full length of that, and we'll put a statement out to that effect. But whatever it is, that shouldn't delay registration at Plaza Dikotopon, and I know that our operational team have put measures in place for registration activities to continue there.
Right. Thank you so much, Ganyu. Please also stay on the line for me. I'm just going to go to Manasseh, who is with us, because, of course, there's been a lot of resistance to these directives that have come from government. And one of such resistances is the No Calls Day, which is being planned now and is scheduled for 8th February in Ghana. It's going to be the first in a series of national boycotts to protest against the current, what they call inhumane process of re-registration of SIM cards. Now, they speak based on the fact that there's no law in Ghana that requires Ghanaian mobile network subscribers to re-register their SIM cards. And according to them, any attempts to impose this on subscribers or block their lines would amount to an infringement of their property rights. Now, the National Communication Authority, they asked to immediately withdraw its directive for mobile network customers to re-register their SIM cards by 31st March 2022. One of the requests they're making is that when the appropriate legal framework is in place, a re-registration exercise can be done without having subscribers spend productive hours and several days in long queues in the midst of a ravaging COVID-19 pandemic. I'm just going to speak to Manasseh quickly. Why, Manasseh, if you can hear me, why No Calls Day on February 8th? Sum it up properly for us.
Well, I think the reasons are clear. And if you listen to Mr. Ken Ashigwe, you would realize that a lot more could have been done to make this registration very seamless, very comfortable, and wouldn't have people panicking about the possibility of losing their right to make phone calls. We, as we've stated, we are not against the re-registration or any process that would ensure that we have a telecommunication system that is devoid of fraudsters and people using mobile phone networks to commit crimes. We are not against that at all, but we are definitely against what we have seen from your report that your cameraman went out today and filed this report. There is nobody in this country who should be happy that the citizens of this country would have to go through this hassle to be able to register. A lot of the time we focus on the cities, but I grew up in Kitekrachi, now in Oti region, and I know that a lot of the communities in places like Krachi, Afram Place, and other places are on the islands. There are some of them who can only travel to the district centers to do registration of any kind when it is the market day, when some speedboats and other means of transport are available. So if you come out with a policy like this, and a lot of people stand the risk of inconveniencing themselves or losing out on the ability to use mobile phone networks on the 31st or from the 31st of March onwards, then we think it is not right. As for the legal aspect, I'm aware that there is currently a case in court challenging the legality, so I wouldn't want to go there so much. But if your report that we all saw at the beginning of this program is anything to go by, and with the admission that there are still long queues at NIA registration centers, and we cannot even be sure that by the 31st of March, people or every Ghanaian who is eligible to have their NIA card would have one. If all of this is still happening, then we think that the policy makers should hasten slowly. Because if you allow this chaos to continue, you are likely to get people who are going to take advantage of this chaos, get themselves cars that or SIM cards that they are not supposed to, because whenever there's chaos, the meticulous nature of the exercise will be compromised. And we may end up defeating the very purpose we all set out to go through this hassle again.
Manasseh, have you been engaged by any agency since you started this, the NCA, any relevant stakeholders?
Not that I know of. If there's any such engagement, it is the NCA's head of legal, who decided to go on social media and insult those of us who were doing this campaign. And it isn't fun. I cannot do my work without the mobile phone. But if I'm prepared to switch it off and protest, then it means there is something that is not right, and I am going to suffer for it. So, so far, that was the only form of engagement, and he had to come back and apologize after a great number of Ghanaians descended on him and told him a public officer paid with our monies couldn't insult people who are aggrieved this way.
Right.
But I don't know of any form of engagement so far.
So he since apologized, I see here. But Manasseh, 7,500 signatures since you started. What does this mean for you?
It means quite a number of people are not happy about it. I know a senior citizen who called me after seeing my name on the registration list. There's a pensioner who told me he didn't mind losing his mobile SIM card and whatever altogether if they don't take steps to make this process humane as we are all protesting. And this is somebody who worked in the security services, and it's not very comfortable having his biometric details with somebody he's not very sure about. So these are concerns that I think the regulator, and I think this campaign is targeting mainly at the regulators, those that are bringing these regulations and policies. Because I know the service providers, mobile telecommunication service providers are going to lose a lot in terms of all of these arrangements. But at the end of the day, those of us at the receiving end, those of us who are going to be making the calls, those of us who need our SIMs to be on and to be able to use these services, all that we are asking for is, after 64 or so years of independence, we should be able to go through this seamlessly. And with the NIA, I think we should be getting to the point that we shouldn't say, okay, we are going to vote and we are going to take our biometric details again. We are going to register SIM cards, another set of biometric details, and almost every time we're going to repeat the same purpose. When they told the NIA card was going to be a one-stop shop for all of these activities, I think we should move on and make things or life a bit easier for Ghanaians who want to pay these policies and still be able to use their networks.
Beyond the February 8th boycott, because when we read this, you see that it's a series of actions that have been planned. What else is being done to target these issues?
When we get there, we should come out and then tell Ghanaians what is next. But our main intention is not even the boycott. If the issues we are asking for, or if the questions we are asking, if the demands we are making are met, I don't think it is in the interest of any member of the group to still go ahead and boycott.
Right.
We are
So
boycotting because certain things are not right.
If these issues are addressed, or an attempt is made to address them before February 8th, then you will be calling off the boycott.
I suspect so, because the boycott is not, we didn't just set out to say we're not going to use mobile networks again, but there are certain demands we are making. So if tomorrow, for instance, whoever is behind this policy, I mean the government or the NCA or the policy come out and say, these are your concerns, we have heard your concerns, and these are the solutions you are asking for, we are providing them. And if you are satisfied, why should we still want to go ahead and boycott when there is nothing to boycott over?
Right. Manasseh, thank you for that clarification. Let me come back to Engineer, who is still with us. Engineer, we see that if this isn't approached properly, it's going to hurt both ways. It doesn't just hurt the customer, it also hurts the telecommunication companies. Imagine if there's a boycott of calls on February 8th. How will this impact the telcos?
Well, thank you very much. I think interestingly, it's only Manasseh I have not reached out to. A lot of the people on the list.
Maybe you reach out to him after the program.
Oh well, yes, but I've reached out to a lot of them because a lot of them, they are all my friends, you know, and I've said that the boycott, as Manasseh said, is not because the things they ask for, the mobile operators cannot meet it. But the boycott is boycotting the mobile operators' services.
I think it's the most significant way they can react, and that's why people are going for that. It's the thing that gets them attention.
Well, I am still saying that, you see, if you boycott it, the mobile operators cannot decide. It's a regulated industry.
But maybe the mobile operators will push the regulator.
Would you want me to answer the question?
Yes.
Yes, but you keep on interjecting. I'm saying that, and I've said to them, you know, that for us as operators, there's nothing because these are regulated agencies. And I also would have to concede that the meeting of the NCA board with the chief executives of the mobile operators was because they themselves were not happy with what was happening. And so in terms of some of the things that the group are asking for, you're beginning to see that happen. You're beginning to see a push for the app to work a lot more better than it has done. For us to look at several things that we can do to improve the customer experience for the customers. The network operators are also trying as much as possible to also take the service to the consumer. The only thing you want to do is you need a balance between that and the pace at which the app is working. The latest updates I'm getting today is telling me that even the online, which was had a challenge, now it's working. So we're able to do work in both the online and the offline mode. And you know, I got feedback from the people from some of the areas we went to, and they, you know, in terms of the time how it worked, it's been an improvement. So I will say it is work in progress, and we need to push and do it a lot more better, especially because our lives are at stake. We have the Omicron around us, and these are not the times that we even want to subject our staff. You know, that some members or some centers had to be closed because, you know, people had tested positive to it and all. So we are working to ensure that we can improve it. So from our end as, you know, operators, I can tell you that we're doing everything we can to be able to deliver on it. I can also tell you that the NCA itself has also taken a very serious stand at it. They're pushing all parties, the app developers, you know, need to also up their game, and they've done that. We are beginning to see that happen again. And as I've said to you, we need to get to the point where we're doing self-service. We need to get to the point where once you take my biometric, you know, once you are able to do that for multiple SIMs that I have. We need to get to the point where the NCA and the NIA are working closely together, so we don't need to collect and store the data, but just collect, you know, at the second point, validate my biometric that I have against the NIA database. All of these are things that we need to do. And so I guess we want to tell Manasseh and his colleagues that, well, it's important, you know, as they say, the Constitution itself gives the media the right to hold leadership to account, to make sure that we're doing this to improve the quality of service for the consumer. And I also say that because, you know, this is a data-rich thing that we're doing, there cannot be a time, and it's also dependent on the NIA. If the NIA have not given all adult Ghanaians who are entitled to a SIM card, you know, a Ghana card, I'm not too sure the minister would say that those people should be denied, how do you call it, their cards. And I'm sure people in some of these outlying areas and all of that, you know, data will be collected to find if people have actually tried to do it, and other things that have militated against them. All of those will be taken into consideration. And in the coming days, as the app increases its speed and throughput, you'll find out that a lot more teams will be sent out into the field. One of the things that I said on Friday was the fact that nobody should pay any money to have a SIM card registered. We have seen some people who are attempting to organize community registration in the name of trying to organize that and getting our teams to come. These people who are organizing the community one are trying to charge money. Please, you don't have to do that. If you're a community, if you're an institution, want to do that, we will come and do it for you for free. And we don't expect you to also charge those who are going to come. There was a unity committee chairperson who was attempting to do that. We have said to them in no uncertain terms that that is not acceptable. You don't pay, and as much as you are trying to make it convenient for people, don't charge money for it. So we will work together with all stakeholders, with Manasseh and his team, to ensure that we can do this to make it seamless and make sure that we don't deny any Ghanaian, of his right to be able to use telecommunication, which is a utility and a human right.
Let me go back to one of my interjections, engineer. Is it possible for the mobile operators and the chamber to put a bit more pressure on the regulator?
Well, I don't know about pressure on the regulator. What we do is that in our engagements with the regulator, we also bring some suggestion. We also bring ways in which we can do this to be able to do it. I'm not too sure for you as a media house. You're regulated by the NCA as well in terms of your frequency and all of that. I'm not too sure when the NCA decides that this is the policy to go, you can do any more than moral suasion. And that we have done in terms of bringing ideas, bringing suggestions. And the NCA themselves have been very welcoming. The technical meetings are meetings that you sit at where ideas are exchanged in ways, processes, and ways we can improve it. But we all concede that they are the regulators. So finally, when you've made all your suggestions, the decision is taken by them. But I will continue to do that. We'll continue to share ideas. We'll continue to bring data from the ground, to find ways in which we can improve the user experience for all of us.
Engineer, I'll come back to you for one last question, but I just need to give out our phone lines so we can take one or two calls. So if you're watching, just quickly call us on 0550-331511. That's 0550-331511. The other number is 020-4738-481. Again, 020-4738-481. We want to hear from you quickly as we're running out of time. Let me go back to Manasseh. So how have you been engaging, especially the customers that you have been working with, because they are the target of your campaign? How are you reaching them apart from social media? Because I have seen this campaign on social media. I'm not sure what other channels are available. Please unmute yourself. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I said there are a number of ways we engage. Social media is actually one of them. We also have mainstream media. And at times, there are also the personal level that we engage with some important groups and people who have a lot of knowledge about this industry.
Okay.
So there are many ways of engagement. And as you can see, the number of signatories, you mentioned about 7,000. This is growing. Yesterday, for instance, was about 5,000. So between yesterday and today, we are talking about 2,000 more. So there are a number of ways we are engaging, and it's all geared towards making the process very humane, making it very civilized, if you should put it so, because I sincerely believe that they are very brainy men and women in this country who can sit down and put their heads together and ensure that we do this thing without the usual chaos that we are used to in this country.
Let me just go to the lines where there's someone from Atonsu. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Sorry for keeping you waiting, but we're listening.
Oh, okay. Please, I want to find out. My auntie registered for me with ID card, but she's no more. I have my
I can't hear you. Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, I think my registered for me with her ID card.
Yes, got that part.
She's no more.
Okay.
And I have my national ID now. But I want to find out when I want to register, how long would that take me? Because with her ID card that she's no more.
I think I'm not sure exactly how we can measure how long this would take you, but the best way to find out is to go to the office of whichever telco you are dealing with, whether it's MTN or Vodafone or Airtel, and they will be better able to answer this question. I don't know if engineer is able to answer it. I'm not sure, but please go to your telecommunications provider and find out from them. You can also call them on your phone. Usually you call the customer care center and they will explain it to you. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
So this is an issue of...
Let me just go to engineer. Yes, please.
Okay, so it means it's an issue of inheritance. She's actually inheriting
her phone number, yeah.
Because see, the auntie cannot have registered for her. So what she then is saying is that I'm inheriting my auntie, and one of the things, either in the whether the
phone
auntie died interstate or with a will, saying that this is what I've willed to you, and so she has to go through the processes of getting that, given to her because it's an inheritance to her. It's one of the gray areas, and I think your answer to her is apt, and I will take that up. It's one of the issues that we might have to take up, that we also have to figure out how do you deal with these things. I'm pretty sure there are laws in place to deal with it.
Because a lot of people are using lines that are not registered even in their names. Usually sometimes a relative, sometimes a spouse. Anyway, we'll find out more on that. But engineer, do you have any closing remarks? We just have about 2 minutes to go.
Well, I just think that for all of us, all the stakeholders working within the SIM registration, what we are seeing is not what we want. So we all need to work to make sure that we are able to do this and do it such that it does not take a toll on the consumer. It would require all of us to bring our ideas on board. So I would urge the team that are talking about 8th February that might not really be our solution. Our solution would be to engage and find ways in which all of us can work together to make sure that we can improve these processes. And the improvements are beginning to take place already. Let's all try and see how we can quicken that to make that really work.
Thank you, Engineer Ken Ashigbe. He's CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. But I have a caller from Assume that I will just take before we wrap up. Okay, unfortunately, that line, we lost that line there. But let me go to Ganiyu from NIA to give us his last words. Ganiyu, if you can hear me. Okay, I don't think we still have Ganiyu on the line. So Manasseh, please, if you can wrap up for us in a minute, please.
Well, I still think that what we have said we will do and the conditions we put up or out there have not yet been resolved. And we are only hoping that somebody would listen and ensure that these are resolved. But if they are not, on the 8th of February, we are going to make our voices heard, that we are not satisfied with the processes. And if things are still not done to get solutions to the issues we have raised, we'll continue to find other means of making our voices heard so that the right thing will be done by Ghanaians.
Thank you so much, Manasseh Azuri Awuni. He's an award-winning journalist. He's also a member of the Concerned Mobile Network subscribers who are embarking on a campaign. I should mention here specifically that we did try our very best to have the NCA on this conversation. We reached out to them through every means. We spoke with them several times, and they could not assign anyone as at the time we came on air. Hopefully the next time we invite them, they are better positioned and able to join us. My name is Nwong Falong. Thank you for joining us for Spotlight. Good evening.